died a month after my bar mitzvah. But life is good. Everybody goes through trials and tribulations. Raised my family. We had like 21 kids that came through our house. So we've had stuff in my house. I always have people with prison reform coming to me, and we stay quiet. We stay behind the scenes and we try to help Israel in any way possible. Sometimes something big happens. Something great happens to you. You must stand up. You must fight back. So, a lot of times they ask me, Heshy, you got to polish up. You got to be one of the guys. You got to be one of the establishment. I've never been one of the establishment. In the 40 years that I served the community, and I was guys like you, I was on the streets, I worked, I struggled. I laid on the floor with my wife on a mattress. That's where we slept when we got married. You got to fight back constantly, and then when you finally make it, and they take it away from you, you got to start again, and you never give up. And I'm going to tell you a story that my father told me. My father told me this story, and it's a true story because he witnessed the second half of this story. And this is one of the stories that changed my life as a young man. My father told me when they were in World War II in the ghetto, there was a family called the Friedman family. Beautiful man, wife, daughter, son, and they had a very good friend named Epstein. What happened was when the Germans came and they put them into the ghetto, Epstein became a capo. The capo was a guy who became an easy way out. He cooperated with the government while the rest of us fought back. One day, Mr. Friedman is walking in the ghetto, and Mr. Epstein is walking the other way with two German soldiers, and they bump into the Friedmans. Right away, they start making fun of the Jews. One of the Germans takes out a gun and shoots the wife on the spot. Another German takes out a gun and shoots the daughter, right there, dead on the street. Mr. Friedman is shocked, can't say another word. Right before they're ready to kill the little boy, Mr. Epstein takes out his stick and starts to beat Mr. Friedman like an animal. Beat him! The way my father said it, who was a Holocaust survivor with the numbers on his hands, we were little boys, we were crying. Beat him! Blood was on the street, Friedman was dead. Nothing more you could do. As one of the Germans took out the gun to kill the little boy, Epstein said, look, they're all looking, they're ready to riot. I'm going to take the little boy, I'm going to go into the woods and kill him. Germans had a good laugh, they said, go. He took the little boy and went into the woods. And that is the end of the story. My father tells me part 2 of the story was Mr. Friedman somehow survived the war. Bloody on the street, the Jews picked him up, took him back, nursed him back to health. Somehow he survived this crazy war. And where does he end up? He ends up in Borough Park. No family, started to build his life, became a gabbai in the shul, assistant gabbai. Took over the swarm, stood by the bima. And as you know, every Shabbos when a guest comes to shul, what do? You invite him up for an Aliyah. Mr. Friedman walked around, he saw 3 or 4 new faces. He went to the head gabbai and he pointed them out. Now, Mr. Friedman stood by the bima, and the gabbai started to call up the names of these people. Now, back then in the 50s, there wasn't a million shuls all over the place where you could go. It's few, and the shuls are packed back then. As they called up the guest, the third and final guest, Mr. Friedman heard the name of this guest, and he stood back for a second. As this guest walked up to the bima, something looked familiar. And as this guy opened up the Torah and started to read the bracha, Mr. Friedman freaked out and screamed, "Murderer! Murderer! You killed my family! How could you be here?" And the man steps back. He says, "Friedman, is that you?" And he starts to scream, "Epstein!" And the shul was silent. The women upstairs were quiet. The shul was dead silent. And Mr. Friedman was crying. "You killed me. You killed my family. You took everything away from me. Everything." Mr. Epstein started to grab Mr. Friedman. Grabbed him. He said, "I can't believe you lived." He says, "What do you mean? You killed me." He says, "No." Now the shul was watching. The rabbi was watching. Epstein says, let me explain. The rabbi of the town told me, they're going to hurt us. He wanted me to be a capo so I could help from the inside, to fight them, to see where I could make the change. He says, as we walked down the street and they killed your wife and daughter, there was nothing I could do. You and your son were dead. Nothing I could do. I figured I would beat you. You die, you live. I can't help it. But I grabbed your son and I went into the woods. And I kept running and running and running. And he points to the back of the shul. That's your son! The son got up. Mr. Friedman got up and they ran to the center of the shul. And the whole shul started singing, Simcha Tov, Mazel Tov. And they were dancing and everybody was happy. And this is where my father tells me he witnessed this part of the story. As he looked up, he saw Malach dancing with the Jews. Why do I tell you this story? My life didn't change. Everybody says, oh, Heshy, your wife lets you run around town, do whatever you want, bring home whatever you want. You must have the perfect marriage. Trust me not. She's not a good cook either. But you have to find the perfect wife, the perfect mate that you can fight with. You have to help Klal Yisrael, even if your life is on the line. I was in jail, for 9 months and 1 week. There was a fraud going on in town. Some guy used a lot of Jewish names. And when it came time to cooperate, I told the government to jump in the lake. I didn't do anything wrong. Again, they arrested 100 people. 50 people made a deal. Some people made things. And they came to me and said, I'm sorry. I don't cooperate. Go jump in the lake. And they put me on trial. And I said, the most you can give me is a year. And they got me for conspiracy of not cooperating with the government. They took everything. Sat there for 9 months and a week in jail. And when I got there, people needed my help. I don't even know why. And as I was there, I had my own truck. Guards were asking me for corned beef and pastrami sandwiches. I asked them if they wanted the bun toasted or not, But this is what we do. Klal Yisrael is a family wherever God puts you. Always remember, we're here for a reason. I'm not here to preach to you. Get it out of your head. I'm not telling you to do good. I'm not telling you to change. I'm not telling you to be a different person. But I'm telling you that we came a long way. We came back from the fires of hell, where our families and grandparents were destroyed. I am a child of the Holocaust, a survivor, who was one of the survivors. I saw this great man cry. Powerful man. Died when I was a little boy. But I saw him. I saw the pain. Not because of what he went through, of what he lost. 10 brothers and sisters. My mother lost 2 only. We rebuilt the family. I have 105 nephews and nieces. I run the family with 3 of my own children, 21 foster kids, and I'm proud of each and every one. Not because who they are, because what they do for our fellow man. We must fight for our fellow man.
How do you have 21 foster kids?
People came through the last 40 years through my house, 30-something years. We have kids coming in, dropping off. Sometimes my friends, my son's friends, just need a place to stay for a year or 2, or a kid on the street that's in trouble, that have problems with the parents. Me and Linda are pretty cool. We understand things. We don't like marijuana or drugs, but it's not gonna ever be legal in my house. But you have to make a change. You have to accept your fellow person. You have to fight for what's right, even though the rest of the world thinks it's wrong. When they took me to jail because I opened the parks, or when, the commissioner, the day before they arrested me, said, Heshy, this is the commissioner. I was on the phone with him and all these guys. You can't keep the shuls open. And you had a lot of rabbis and community leaders agreeing with him. I said, Commissioner, let me put it to you this way. Never, not one shul is closing for Simchas Torah. We won't dance on the streets. Not one of us. I tell my people, the community, we got $40 million in fines. We're going to find a way to do it. Our shuls, our schools, our yeshivas, our stores will not close. Because it's the right thing. We must help our neighbors. Again, you think, I'm preaching to you. I'm saying to you a story. They will never take Klal Yisrael, but it's not only Klal Yisrael. We have to remember our fellow man. No matter who they are, we must be good. Once we show good and kindness and power, and there's no deals. There's no deals when you're dealing with God. There's no deals as a Jew that we're going to partially make a deal. This week's Parsha, you had the boys went to Mitzrayim to get food, and you know the story with Yosef in jail. And when the guys got there, Yosef said, "Hey, you spies, I want your youngest brother to come here." So when they went home to Yaakov to pick up Binyamin, you know the story. Reuven says, I promise you, Father, I'm going to bring back Binyamin. If not, you can kill 2 of my children. Yaakov said, no deal. Yehuda says, I will give up my world, my olam haba, my olam hazeh, everything. And Yaakov agreed. It doesn't make sense. What did he give up? Olam haba, olam hazeh, he'll go get it again. But 2 children's lives? The answer is simple. Reuven had 4 kids. Reuven said, take 2. He made a deal. He compromised. Yehuda said, no. It's all or nothing. For us Jews, it's all or nothing. There is no deals when it comes to our fellow Jewish brothers and sisters. Never. I'm not talking to you young kids because I was one of you guys. I know what it is to be on the streets. I know what it is to struggle. I know what it is to lose everything. And then somehow God gives it back to you. I'm going to tell you one more story because I know you're bored of me already. Big fat guy, here's the singer. Where's the singer? He wants to come back.
Skinny pants. Drink?
Skinny pants. I ripped them. I threw them away and I burned them dry. But, you know, I go visit people in my community, Menachem Oval people. I go around my community for years. I know almost everybody there. And I went to be Menachem Oval with some family that I knew. And as I'm sitting over there by the Shiva call, and you know, Heshy makes a little bit fun, makes people a little happy, you know, we run around, I was making a little joke. In comes this old man, walks in, takes his coat, stands on the chair, throws it down and screams, hello, I want to tell you a story. Even I was shocked, you know, it's not so easy. And he tells a story of a lady sitting in a bus stop in Queens in a cemetery. He tells a story of a lady sitting in Queens by a bus stop. And it was raining, pouring rain. And this young guy drives by, beeps door, and he says, lady, what are you doing here? She says, I came to my husband's yard grave, and I live in the Bronx. And he says, it takes me a few buses to get home. He says, let me take you home. She says, no, I'm in the Bronx. He says, listen, I live a few blocks away from you. Get in the car, let me take you. Lady says, okay. She jumps in the car and he drives her to the Bronx. He drops her off and he leaves her there. A year later, the guy calls this old lady because they got friendly. He says, I know that you have to go to the cemetery and I have to be there too. I was there at the same time as you. Let me take you. She argues with him a little bit. Finally, she agrees and he picks her up and he takes her to the cemetery. He drops her off where she has to go. He says, I'll pick you up in an hour and a half. I have to go up to the hill myself and I'll take you home. This goes on for 16 years till she dies. The old man says, I want to tell you who this lady was. This lady was my mother. The young boy who took her back and forth was your father. He didn't live in the Bronx. He lived in Flatbush. He had no idea where the Bronx to go over there. But he made it his business because he knew this lady needed help. You don't have to do big things to help your fellow man. A bottle of milk. Go visit somebody on a Shabbos. Go just sit in the hospital for an hour and smile at all the people and give out a package. Nobody's asking you to give money. Nobody's asking you to anything. A little chesed, a little kindness to your fellow man. That's what the Hirshy created us for. The greatest chesed giver in the world created us in his image to do chesed. To fight for all or nothing. So I'm going to give you guys a bracha. It's Chanukah, the last day, supposedly. Even little people like me can do it. I wish all of you the greatest year, that you will do so much chesed that nobody can ever stop you. Your olam haba will grow so powerful that I will be jealous. I can't get it now because of this guy. He took up all the space. Very upset with you. I love all of you. Hashem bless you. May Hashem, and please invite me to your weddings because, as you know, none of my wedding halls are closed as well. I keep them all open. I've gone to like about, I don't know, either easy 100 weddings so far, and I'm going to continue going. And we're never going to stop Klal Yisrael from growing, from having children, from getting married. And I love you. And a Friday Chanukah to all of you.
Chanukah! Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, anybody want to get a picture of us before he goes back to Flatbush?
Jump in the car.